Welcome to a conversation with Senator Michael Moore. My name's Kevin Byrne, and Senator Michael Moore is our state senator representing the 2nd Worcester District, which encompasses 6 communities in central Massachusetts, a portion of Worcester and a portion of Northbridge. Did I finally get that right?
It's actually 8 communities.
Oh, I missed.
You actually got, I was just thinking as you said that, I think last time you had the number right.
Oh, and I got it wrong again?
No, this time you get the number wrong.
Okay, we're gonna
last time you got it right.
We're gonna have to do this program over because I got the introduction wrong. So it's, how many communities? You got 8.
Yeah, Leicester, Auburn, Millbury, Grafton, Shrewsbury, Upton, Northbridge, Worcester.
Worcester.
And Northbridge and Worcester, I have
Pieces of.
Well, half the community, roughly half the community.
All right, ladies and gentlemen watching this program, have you got that straight, okay? He's named all of those communities. The only one is of great consequence and significance is obviously the community of Shrewsbury, where we are taping this program. And we are taping this program because we're all tired of watching our Christmas program, which we had with our wonderful fireplace, and you told me it was going to be a picture of me above the fireplace, and there was no picture of me above the fireplace.
Oh, no, I can only suggest these ideas.
No, you are the decider. You are the legislator.
Well, I put it out there.
You're supposed to make these decisions, Michael. How are you?
I'm very good. How
How's
are you?
the kids? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah, everybody's doing okay. My son is actually homesick today.
He's homesick?
Yeah, he wasn't feeling well.
Okay,
So
all right.
I don't know if it was from the Patriots' loss or just...
Well, we were all just a tad tired this morning,
Yes.
okay? We were physically tired and we were a little emotionally drained. I got to tell you, Tom Brady he's amazing. Past 500 and, what'd they say, 505, 515 yards or something. And honest to God, the hero of that game for the Eagles was that fella, whatever the lineman was, who knocked that ball out of his hands with 2 minutes left, because you knew we're sitting there saying he's got 2 minutes. That's like a lifetime for Tom Brady. And,
well, you know,
but you can't. At some point, you know, the miracle finishes. You know, I guess had to stop at one point. But candidly, it was a very exciting game.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because when I was watching the game, the broadcasters had mentioned, put something up on the screen that every Super Bowl that he has won has been on a comeback drive.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
Well,
just as you, so last night when he said that, when I saw that, I'm like, oh God, he just jinxed us. but if you think about it, if you go back for the records, how many quarterbacks in the Super Bowl have ever gotten over 500 yards?
Nobody.
But then lost.
And lost, yes. Right.
And then you have the Patriots, the entire game, no punts.
No punts, that's right. That's amazing.
And then they lost.
Absolutely amazing.
And you're right, you know, if it wasn't for that one, I think that the 2 plays was the 4th and 1 touchdown where Foles caught the touchdown.
Yeah.
And then
that's a great play.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but there's next year now, right?
We move on. We move on.
Although it was in the news today, they were saying Gronkowski is considering retirement, or?
The thing in the paper this morning saying he was fudgy at whatever the televised thing after the game, but at that point, you know, I don't think they knew what their names were at that stage of proceedings, for Pete's sake. Anyway, it's absolutely fascinating, really.
But it was, if we're going to lose, I think the way we lost last night
it's good
was a lot better than the New York Giant losses, where you had the guy make that miraculous catch with the helmet catch
on his helmet.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
right. At least there we were. All right. So we're out of that, and now we're into March Madness. So we're going to go from the Super Bowl, from the football season into
college basketball.
Watching thousands of college kids who all of them have finished their term papers so that they're able to spend the next 2 months on the road playing basketball. Always an issue I've had about college athletes at times. I often wonder, when do they go to class? I'm sure there's an answer. I'm sure there's an answer to that.
There has to be an answer.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a good one. Didn't they crack down on that several years ago?
Oh, they do. The NCAA does that every so often.
Yeah.
So you do have to go to class really until that was always the problem that my alma mater, Boston College, had. Is Boston College wanted to play big time super duper football, and absolutely insisted that they had to take courses other than blocking 101 and tackling 202. And
I think that was Holy Cross's issue too for a while. Why they never tried to make the transition to a higher sports.
They're still trying, really and truly. They're still at it.
No, but they're still concentrating on academics.
I absolutely love them, Michael. They're in a bowl game. I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years they're in a bowl game, and this year it was the Pinstripe Bowl, and in 1 year they were in North Dakota at the really cold bowl or wherever they were. But I mean, God love them. They make a lot of dough doing it. The kids, it's good for the school. It really truly is. I have to truly say that.
So we'll go to March Madness, and then from there, hopefully, we'll have the Celtics carrying us into the playoffs.
About that. Who also are doing?
They're doing exceptional this year. Yeah, really well.
Right.
I think there's some talk of.
All right, this is not the sports program. You know, they have a sports program here.
Well, we're going into a sports-related topic.
All these sportsy guys sitting around with their baseball caps on.
Yeah, but you can't tell you can't tell sportsmen hunting is not a part of sports.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's related.
All right, this is the first thing you and I are going to talk about. We had a program scheduled, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and
yes, and I had a.
You absolutely insisted you had 2 hearings. That you had to do your job.
I think it was my daughter. I think I had an issue with my daughter came up.
Oh, that was afterwards, something like that. Okay. But there were things we were going to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about is something called the Poaching Prevention Bill that you proposed and actually got through the Senate, I'm told, okay? And it's still kicking around. Hopefully it's going to become law, okay? I was telling the folks here, I said, I've got to do a little disclosure right at the beginning when we're talking about poaching and hunting and sportsmen. Sports people, as you know, I grew up in South Boston, okay? Born and raised there. The only grass I ever saw grew up between the cracks in the sidewalk. I know nothing about sportsmen. I know nothing about poaching, and you're going to tell me all about it because you are a sportsman. And you are living in a district, quite frankly, in which there are a substantial number of people who are involved in various sports activities in terms of hunting and whatever else.
Hunting and fishing. This actually also goes out to affect some of our marine fisheries laws.
Yeah.
So basically, if the laws.
What Shelley tells me is that this thing hasn't. The laws relating to poaching have not been updated since the 1930s. Really. Yep. Okay. Tell me, one, what's the issue, and what is the purpose of the legislation?
Well, the purpose of the legislation is if you can imagine the fines and penalties that were established in the 1930s,
right.
And then now trying to have those be a deterrent for people committing some of these types of crimes.
Right.
So we wanted to increase those so that if people that are caught in violation, at least there's some sort of impact that they feel.
There's a sanction that has some significance.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Humane Society of Massachusetts and the U.S. Humane Society actually came to me with this concept. I want to say
the Humane Society.
Yeah, 6 years ago. They approached me and asked if I would sponsor this, and one of the main reasons why is where I used to be an environmental police officer. Yeah. They asked if I would do this, and it does give the officers in the field more tools to try to enforce.
Is this a problem? Is there a lot of poaching?
No, there is. There's a lot of well, if you can poach right now, and get caught and have no sanction, what's to stop you? And there's some industry that results from this.
The city boy. In order to hunt, you need a license.
Yes. And you had to get a license, you have to go through a hunter safety class, which is taught by the Division of Fish and Wildlife and the Environmental Police. Then they have hunting classes. They have a hunting class. They have a trapping class. They have an archery class. So they teach you safe hunting techniques, and they go over some of the laws. Where this impacts South Boston is You do have some marine fisheries laws where you'll have the people out there on the clam flats.
Yes, right.
So.
Oh, I see.
think-
Okay, all right.
So I think one of the main, and also people fishing right now, because right now actually one of the changes to the law is, I want to say it was maybe 8 years ago or 6 years ago, they actually passed a saltwater fishing license. So
Really?
now, yeah, which was never put in the books until about 6 years ago.
No kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
So in order to do saltwater fishing,
Yep,
You
we need a,
you need a license.
now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this also affects commercial fishing.
Now you've got South Boston because Castle Island was our place. We used to go down there with our fishing poles and catch tons of mackerels, little tinker mackerels. When they would run, you actually didn't need a fish for them. You could almost pick them out of the water. There were so many of them, and then you'd bring them home. And my mother would say, "What do you think I'm going to do with those smelly things to eat?"
Feed me. So this deals with the hunting, fishing, and the poaching. There are some mammals that their inner organs, like bear bladders or different types of organs,
Well, remember you telling me that. at one
that
time.
actually overseas are worth a lot of money. We actually, when I was on the environmental police, they had an officer that went undercover, working with a whole network along the East Coast of poachers, and that's what they would do. They would have illegal poaching activity. They would kill bear, moose, and different things. Anything where the inner organs had a high value overseas.
Okay. Some medicinal value.
Yes. Yes.
Let's say alleged medicinal value. Maybe it is.
It may have, may not have, but it was
Really?
it was of high value. So
Right.
this gives them a little bit more tools there. Another one of the biggest aspects of this legislation, I think, is right now Massachusetts. Well, I should say right now there is a national reciprocity
Oh, right.
with everyone but 4 states, and Massachusetts is one of those states. And this is the reciprocity program is basically modeled after the driver's license, where if you get caught driving under the influence here, or for any sort of infraction where you lose your license, your right to drive, that right is then lost anywhere. You cannot get a license to drive in any other state.
Right.
Right now, Massachusetts is one of the few states, one of 4, that you could get caught illegally hunting in, say, the state of Maine. Now, we're saying hunting, so you could be using a bow and arrow. You could be using a shotgun. So these are types of devices that there is a public safety aspect to it.
Sure.
So you get caught hunting there. You could get a violation there and say they suspend your right to hunt. Well, right now you lose the right to hunt in that state. You can come to Massachusetts, and that right to hunt, that loss of that privilege to hunt, doesn't carry forward to Massachusetts.
I see.
So basically, it creates almost like a haven for people who that may have been
Right.
prohibited in other
How do
states to come here.
sportsmen feel about this? Sportsmen's organizations.
No, they haven't really weighed in. I don't imagine. There's been no opposition. This is actually the 3rd session that the bill will have passed the Senate. We've had difficulties in the House getting it through. We actually thought last session it was going to, we were told there was a good chance it was going to pass during an informal session, so after we broke in July.
Yeah.
But there's, in all honesty, the difficulty has been the Department of Fish and Wildlife. They've been resistant to this. Why? They claim there's a lot of due process issues, that you could have in one state something be illegal, and then in Massachusetts it's not.
Oh,
So
I
why should some? But so what we did to the bill, we created a whole process for an appeal hearing, so that if that did occur, the Division of Fish and Wildlife could reinstate it based on that reason. So hopefully this will hopefully pass this session. It would be nice to finally get it through. But again, it's to have Massachusetts one of 4 states that are part of the program, and where there are some significant public safety issues that coincide with this. I think it's important.
Only because we have a house down Cape Cod, and I read the Cape Cod Times when we're down at our house in Dennis, is that there seem to be rather strict rules about fishing that the fishermen are not thrilled with, about the numbers of fish that you can catch, the size. Obviously, I think there's still seasons, aren't there, that
Oh yeah, well,
Certain.
if you're talking for the
Used to always
commercial,
be a lobster season, I thought. I don't know.
well, lobsters you can do year round, but it
Okay.
just obviously it's much hotter in the wintertime.
Right.
But the lobster is more of a size. You have to maintain a certain size for the lobster, and then you can't catch egg-bearing lobsters, which are the females. There's been some, and actually I can't remember whether we passed it or not. There's always been a prohibition against having parts thereof. So if you say you went onto a lobster, they went onto a lobster boat, and they only found half of a lobster, or where you couldn't measure to determine the legal size, it was always considered that would be considered a short lobster. And lobsters, the fines are actually pretty extensive. I think the first, if I remember correctly, I think it was $100 for the first violation. So,
What is it called? It's called the
Legislative Academy.
Citizens Legislative Seminar Academy. Tell me about that.
basically what it is, it's a 2-day program where every senator is allotted at least 2 spots, and you come in for 2 days, and they will basically take you through the process of being a legislator, from what you do on a daily basis to filing legislation. They have speakers coming in they'll have various senators will come in, talk about what they do.
That's a great idea.
They'll go over drafting
Is
of a
it well
bill.
attended?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They'll go over drafting of a bill. They have the clerk come in. They actually even have a mock debate on the Senate floor,
Right.
and they'll actually pick one of the more controversial issues that's going to be debated that year, and have people
And have them
pro and con, and
have
it's
the
funny.
civilians come in and have a go at it.
Well, it's funny having the people that want to be, because they'll assign what issue and what your position is. So if you're someone who's actually opposed to it, but you get assigned, you're on the, you have to argue in favor of this.
You'd be in the affirmative rather than the negative.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you go over the hearings and what happens at hearings. So
Who goes to these?
we actually get a lot of town managers, selectmen. Not town managers, you get selectmen. People involved in a lot of different town committees.
Okay.
Will come.
A lot of municipal people who,
Yes,
who are
yeah.
interested in that. It's a great idea.
Oh, really is. You know, we get a lot of compliments later on about how good the program was. So my office is actually quite involved with it. As you know, Shelley, my office, and
Sure.
I have one of my aides, Zach, works with. Her name is Ann Zaya, who runs the education department. So we actually work pretty closely with her.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's nice.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. You're talking about going down there and being involved in government. My first taste of all of that was when I was in high school. They had student government day, and I got selected from Boston College High School to be the state representative from whatever district that was. The school was in Dorchester, or Dorchester, as we say if you come from Boston. Okay, Marcy Boulevard. And Bob Quinn, who ultimately became the Attorney General
Yes,
of the Commonwealth, was involved for a trillion years. Bob passed away a few years ago. Trillion years was involved with the trustees. I think he was the head of the board of trustees at UMass Medical up here, and I think ran for governor. I know he ran for governor. He didn't win, but he ran for governor anyway. But what a wonderful experience. It was my first experience being down there and being able to sit in those chairs. I was a representative. I wasn't a senator on those days. But wonderful opportunity. I think they still do that.
Yeah, no, they still have Student Government Day.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how the schools pick out who has what position. Because each year it seems to change.
In the old days, I was told, you have been selected. I don't think we had an election, I think.
Well, we'll get notified. Okay, this student for this school is
I think the
senator
headmaster
for the
said,
day.
Byrne, you got a mouth, you go down and do it, for Pete's sake, okay? And it was a great experience.
Is that when you were envisioned being the Speaker of the House?
Absolutely, at least the Speaker of the House.
At least, okay.
Another piece of legislation.
Yes.
That really is Shrewsbury oriented, and that is an issue that's been of concern to the town of Shrewsbury for a substantial number of years. And I know when I was the town moderator, frequently these issues would come up about 40B, a section of a law called, the section of it is 40B, which relates to the requirement of all communities in the Commonwealth to meet a percentage of affordable housing in their community based upon the number of housing units that there are in the community, that 10% of that housing stock must be, quote, affordable.
Now we should
Very difficult to meet.
And we should clarify that because a lot of people, when a 40B project comes to the community,
Right.
thinks it's Section 8 housing. No, it's a big difference.
Right.
So 40B, they looks at the.
It's not, quote, low-income housing.
No, it takes the average cost of all the housing. So
Right.
you could go to an area where the average cost of a home is $800,000.
Right.
So affordable a house there could be $400,000.
Right.
So there's.
Right. The difficulty with it is that if you have not met that 10% amount standard, then basically builders, developers can come into your community and do not have to participate, do not have to follow the appropriate zoning bylaws, planning board rules and regulations that apply to the community at large. They can just say, okay, we're not going to do it. We're going to hopefully certify ourselves as a 40B project, and the state kind of takes over. And that's been a difficult problem in Shrewsbury for a substantial number of years.
Another community in my district that has the same problem, well, they all have this problem, but has been requesting the same type of legislation is the town of Auburn.
Auburn?
Yeah, they've had the same
difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not difficult, but have proposed a remedy that has the same remedy that Shrewsbury's proposed.
And the remedy that's been proposed, and I know John LeBeau, I think all of the selectmen have been actively involved with this, but I know John, when he was chair, I think he was the chair the last couple of years, was to suggest that there be a decision, and I guess it requires legislation, that so-called manufactured homes, of which there are, I gather, a substantial number in Shrewsbury, because they are in substance or in fact so-called affordable housing, be considered as affordable housing in order to meet that 10%, or at least to get it above. Shrewsbury right at the moment, my memory is at 6%.
Okay.
To see if they can get that number higher. Not that we're trying to discriminate about anybody, but if we're going to have, if we're going to do any more building in the town of Shrewsbury, that requires you want to have the local folks in the local zoning and planning board rules and regs apply.
Where it's fairly throughout the entire community.
Exactly, really and truly. How is this done?
Well, so basically, legislation, if a community wants to deviate from the general law that governs it, it would be what's called a home rule petition.
What's a home rule petition?
It would be a home rule. And then the home rule has to go through town meeting. Once it's approved at town meeting, it then goes to the legislature and it's filed by the rep and the senator.
Okay.
And then it goes to, the majority of home rules actually go to the Committee on Municipal and Regional Government. This one actually didn't. This actually went to, what was the committee? Pending for the Joint Committee. I can't remember the committee it went to. Oh, Housing, Committee on Housing. And then if it comes out of committee with a recommendation for favorable, if there's usually, most home rules, if there's not a substantial precedent that's going to be set, kind of move. They
Sure,
eventually
they moved relatively smoothly through
Right.
the
I don't want to
through
say
the
quickly,
process
but
down there.
smoothly
There
through there.
usually matters that are not of
Right. But this,
great controversy.
when we, so myself and Representative Kane went,
Anna Kane.
and Hannah Kane and Kristen Lass were down there, and trying to think who else from the town. Oh, and Chairman John LeBeau
Yep.
was there, and we testified in favor of this. So hopefully the committee will report it out favorably.
Okay.
There were, I want to say 2 or 3 members of the committee who actually also spoke in favor of this.
Yeah.
Thought this was a good concept. So
Okay.
now we're just waiting to see what happens.
Right, right. Dan Magato, our former town manager, 20 years he was here, used to wax eloquent about this and saying, you know, problem with the issues of this 40B legislation is it kind of penalizes towns who have always taken the position to be, you know, to be open and encouraging to residential development. God love us, Shrewsbury has been that. And basically relating to our zoning bylaws, that a substantial number of our community is still zoned so that you can build a house on 12,500 square foot lots, okay? In fact, Mr. and Mrs. Byrne live on Elma Circle, and we live on a 12,500 square foot lot. Well, as a result of what you wound up with substantial growth and development, and now you're kind of being penalized because it's 10%, because you've been open and willing to encourage people to come. You know, we're now being kind of penalized as opposed to other communities. My memory is Weston has a 2-acre zoning requirement. You know, you can't build a bird bath unless you have 2 acres, I guess, to put on.
Even
things like that.
now in Millbury, now every town is going to have different,
Yeah.
but Millbury, the sections of the town that have public water and sewer,
Sure.
actually sewer, the lot size is reduced. If it's still on well water, it's a 2-acre.
Gotcha. Okay.
So a lot of that's based on the water capacity.
Sure.
But the way the bills work is by February 7th, which is tomorrow.
Pretty soon.
Yeah,
See,
Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'm retired now, Michael. I don't know what day of the week it is.
All bills
I
have
know
to.
today's Monday.
Okay, I know that. So today's the 5th, so it's Wednesday. All bills have to be reported out of committees by February 7th.
Oh, okay.
So the only way they're not is if an extension is granted. So unless the committee chairs are going to be seeking an extension, hopefully this bill will be
Okay,
reported out of the committee.
we'll see what
another
transpires.
another aspect of this is that we're actually going to be doing a land zoning bill, which the Senate did last session.
Yeah.
So if this legislation is not successful,
Yeah.
we could always try to do an amendment to the larger bill and see if we can try to get that in there.
Okay.
So.
All right. All right. It's been difficult and problems. Do we have a budget yet? Did the governor talk about a budget yet?
Yeah, the budget has come out.
We did State of the State
Did State of the State.
last week. Was it last week?
I think it was last week.
Short while ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We did State of the Union, then we do State
yeah,
of the
we did
State.
State of,
and
yep. So now I think the State of the State was probably a little better than the State of the Union.
I think you're exactly right.
So, we'll go from there.
In
So-
any event, we got lots of stuff, and we'll be talking about that when we meet again within a very short period of time. Michael,
Yes.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for being with us. Thank you for all you do for the community of Shrewsbury and the other communities. And to the folks who are watching, please join us the next time.